Oh, listen to that music. High flying is what it is.
It is.
I'm a sucker for a good bass line, and our theme music has the best bass line ever. We're dropping the bass. Awkward. So awkward.
I know. Well, what are you going to do?
I know. Drop
I'm
the
not
bass.
apologizing. Not
No.
apologizing.
For getting funky with the bass line from Max Caselli, Magical
Hi,
Max
Max.
Caselli. Max,
Good job,
congratulations
Max.
on your upcoming nuptials. So apparently
Yeah.
they set a date. So
Oh.
good job, Max.
Hooray! Well,
Yes.
Good for them.
Yes, indeed. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Here we are on a Sunday. You are listening to / watching the Brother Sisters, Smart Dumb Fun with the Brother Sisters. So I'm Jenny / Janice Brothers. And this is my
Uh,
sister. Wait,
Uh,
pointing
I-
at you. Yeah.
I'm Ann Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's my sister. Yeah. That's Anne with no E.
No E. Exactly.
No E.
Not good.
That's right.
So.
Yeah.
But
Yes. So good news. We are here. We are together. Together-ish.
mhm.
Yeah.
We're in the
It's been
same
a busy
state.
week. We're in the same state. That's good. We are
Mhm.
in this. We're sharing the same frequency. I don't know. What do
Time
you call it?
zone?
It's not frequency. Is that what you call it when it's like on the internet? So I don't know. It's not really.
I don't
a
know.
radio,
I
so
still
don't
think
either.
that the internet is a magic thing. So I don't know
It's a
how it
magic
works.
thing that controls the universe. I know. I wonder what would happen if all of a sudden tomorrow, like no internet. What would we do? What would our reaction be?
Well, I don't know. Reading more or war. There's probably not going to be any in between.
I think you're right. I posted a picture on Facebook, and it was basically a picture of somebody's bumper sticker that just said "Meteor 2024," and I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Duncan and I were. I'm not going to go into detail on the World Wide Web, but you know how we were kind of talking about the candidates and
Yes.
that. Okay, so I mentioned that to Duncan, and at first he was horrified, but then he was like, "Oh, wow,
Yeah, it doesn't sound so bad, does it, Duncan?
it doesn't."
No. Yeah. So we're not going to talk about what we were talking about on the show.
Hmm?
What did he just say?
He said
What
he'd
did
be
Duncan
willing
just
to make
say?
that bargain.
So when Ann and I were driving back and forth to Traverse City last week to go see Amy Tam, we came up with an idea of what we wanted for this year's presidential election, and we're not going to talk about it because it's no, we're not going to say anything. But anyway,
Exactly. But
anywho,
at first you're
we
like,
digress.
"Oh, wait, no," and then you're like, "Oh, wait."
Oh wait.
Anyway, but we
So the-
digress. You're right, Jenny Brothers.
You-
We're
you-
digressing.
We are digressing. The fun thing about a compromise is that in the end, nobody's happy, and that's exactly what we need.
Exactly.
Yes. So, but we're not here to talk about politics. We are here to talk about this amazing book. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. We are here to talk about Amy Tan and the Backyard Bird Chronicles, which is a book that she released just back in April is when this book came out. And we're gonna talk not just about the book itself and about Amy Tam, but also just the fun of bird watching and being bird nerds. So that's what we are going to discuss today. So before we get into that, though, let's go ahead and let's take people back for if you're joining us for the first time. You probably don't know much about the Brother Sisters, so this is our quick synopsis to just bring you up to date on who we are and what we do during our stream. This is the first 10 minutes where you learn about us. All right, Anne, would you like to take people through today?
Sure. We're Ann and Janice Brothers. Our last name is Brothers, and we are sisters. Amazing, right?
We're baby daddy and everything.
Exactly. All that stuff. We're in our 50s, Generation X, which means we usually have a Simpsons quote for every occasion. We talk about smart stuff, dumb stuff, fun stuff, or any combination of the three. We're not hip or cool or sexy. And we know this because, quote, "I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. And now what I am isn't it." Unquote. Grandpa Simpson. There you go. First Simpsons quote.
That's right. My favorite Simpsons quote is, "You don't win friends with salad." You don't
You
win
don't
friends
win
with
friends with
salad.
salad.
You don't
You don't win
you don't
friends with
win friends with
salad.
salad. Yeah, exactly, because, you
Exactly.
don't,
Mhm.
and anybody that tells you that is a liar. So that's Homer Simpson, and then Bart Simpson, uh, and then,
Marge
is it
Simpson, she
Marge
starts singing too. Mhm.
that's right. They have a little conga line with that
Yeah.
quote, which I adore. So, yes,
Yes.
agreed. Right on.
We're not a celebrity influencer or true crime podcast. Those are just too much work. I mean, sometimes we're like, oh, we got to hurry up and get our show to put together for Sunday. So I'm like, if we had to do more work, I'm not sure we get done very often. So
No,
we're great to listen to when you want to learn things about stuff, especially stuff you should have learned in school, but you skipped that day, or they just didn't teach it, which was a pity. Anyway, so here you are learning things about stuff. This
totally.
podcast, not G or PG or even PG-13. I mean, it was in the 90s all last week, so tempers are running short.
Oof.
Um, yeah.
Today
So
today was literally a breath of fresh air. It was so nice today.
it was. It
Like,
was.
yes.
Yeah. Yesterday I was cleaning my chicken coop and I was like sweating so much, like sweat is dripping off me onto the floor of the chicken coop.
Awesome. Yeah.
It was it was kind of miserable.
You're, yeah, that doesn't make me wanna have a chicken coop because summer.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was like, it was, and my chickens are like, "What you doing?" "Huh, I don't think you're doing a very good job." "Huh, I'm gonna kick the stuff all over the place." All right."
Mm. So judgmental. Why chickens gotta be
So
so judgmental? It's not
I don't
right.
know, man. It's not right. So you can join us on our website or Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. You can like us, follow us, hit the bell, leave us a review, 5 stars, please. Give us your
Mhm,
feedback with our questions and answers and our polls, and you can ask
mhm.
Alexa to play us. She
Yeah.
she knows who we are.
She knows us. We're friends.
We're like
People know us.
friends. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you guys, that what Ann just said about supporting us, the beauty of the brothers sisters is that you don't have to give us money. You don't have to give us a dime. All you got to do
Mm-mm.
is follow us, like us, subscribe, leave a review, and not just that, but tell your people to do that. Make it your mission to tell your friends, family, strangers on the street, people that you're walking by. I'm like, you should subscribe to the brothers sisters. Like, follow, leave a review on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, because that's more valuable to us than money right now. Having followers, having eyes on the prize, and so forth. So make that happen. You can
Mhm.
do it. It's okay. It's okay. I'm
It's
a
okay.
limo driver.
We'd love
And
it.
let's talk. Yeah, we would love it very much. And you'll love it too. You'll feel good in your heart. You're going to make yourself feel better by supporting us. So you're
Mhm.
going to be like, yeah, I feel good. You know how it is when you've done a good thing, how good you feel inside? That's how you're going to feel when you like, subscribe, review, and tell your people to do the same thing. So,
Mhm.
yay.
Okay.
And you want to talk about smart, dumb, fun stuff that happened this week?
I do. Let's talk about
Yes.
that. For
Okay.
me, I had a fun thing happen. I saw it on M Live where they have like a 45-second clip of the baby beavers that are at the Mathi Botanical Garden in Ann Arbor. And it's not like a super like, oh, it's the most amazing clip ever, but it's cute because these two little baby beavers are following their mother. And that's awesome. Duncan and I go and hike there sometimes. It's a beautiful place to go if you've not been there before, the Mathi Garden. But they had a beaver come in a year or two ago, and now she has baby beavers.
Yeah. Well,
So
that means there must have been a boy beaver around there somewhere too.
somewhere,
So
exactly, because they don't just magically happen.
I know.
At least that's what I've been told.
Poof.
Poof.
Because
So, oh yeah, go ahead.
if that happened, it's going to be a whole new religion. So, yay.
Exactly, centered around beavers, which I think should be your religion anyway. So
Wouldn't be
anyway,
so
here's
bad.
a quote for that. A Simpsons quote. "Oh, good. Those helpful beavers are swimming out to save him. Oh no, they're biting him and stealing his pants." Lenny and Carl, The Simpsons. I can even
Uh,
hear their voices in my head. Oh no, they're stealing his pants. So anyway,
again, well, and we were talking about this before the show. The fact that the reason that there's a Simpsons quote for every occasion is because The Simpsons has literally been on TV now for 35 years. It
mhm,
premiered in, I think, the spring of 1989, and
mhm,
that's why, because Gen X has basically been raised by. We were ushered into adulthood by The
mhm.
Simpsons. So
Yeah,
that's
the
yeah.
Simpsons taught Gen X how to adult.
Yes. And then that might say something about why and how we adult, because
Exactly.
The Simpsons taught us. So
Mhm. Yes. Good or bad, we're a product.
yes, correct. There's another quote that I really like from The Simpsons. It's from the comic book guy. The other one that I like is loneliness and cheeseburgers are a dangerous mix. And I think that's how I basically that's my therapy. So I'm like, I should actually go to therapy, but instead I just go get a cheeseburger with lots of pickles on it. And that's, I'm like, look, therapy and
Exactly.
surprise, you know?
No. That should be my mantra. Like, what's your mantra? Cheeseburgers and sadness equal,
Yes, I'm like, loneliness and cheeseburgers are a dangerous mix. So,
Exactly. Exactly. So,
yeah.
Jenny, what happened to you this week?
Well, and I chose the dumb thing this week because it literally, Joe and I were talking about it last night. So anyway, yesterday I was out with my friend Abby and Kim. We were over at Martell's in Kalamazoo, which is a lovely spot because they have a great patio right on this cute little lake. There was just deer hanging out. It was a wildlife, extravaganza. There were some doves in a nest behind me. So it was a really just lovely night. So anyway, I saw a squirrel, and of course, squirrel because
Mhm.
me. So here I am looking at this nice bank of trees, and there's this squirrel on a branch, and it had the longest tail I have ever seen on a squirrel. Like, like this picture that I'm showing you was not the same squirrel, but that squirrel had a tail that was that long. And so I got distracted by the squirrel, and then I got Kim and Abby to look at the squirrel, and Kim said that it looked like the squirrel had a monkey tail. And then they're like, "What do you call that?" And I said, "You call it a squunky. A squunky, a squirrel and a monkey. It's a squunky." And they're like, "No, no, it's a mural. It's like a mural." And I'm like, "Squunky is way funnier." And Joe and I talked about it when I was driving home from the restaurant, and we agreed Squunky is much funnier.
Well, it is because it's got Q in it, and Q's are always funnier. That's the
She was
funniest.
hilarious. Yep. So yeah, like I said, dumb. Dumb,
Hmm. Yeah,
because squunky.
because
I
Squunky.
yeah, this is what happens
Sometimes,
when I'm allowed to roam, in my mind.
exactly. It's like, oh no, Jenny went out in public.
I went out in public and I had a mojito, and then before you know it, we're talking about squunkies.
Squunkies and baby
Hmm.
beavers because,
Hmm.
it was Nature Week.
Because
Jenny, it was Nature Week this week.
it was totally Nature Week this week at in the world of the brother sisters, and it's
Mhm.
because we were talking about a nature book. So there you go.
Exactly. Exactly. We're all
So
inspired.
indeed. So speaking of that nature book, let's talk about the Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it off, and I'm going
Please.
to talk a little bit about Amy Tan.
Mhm.
So Amy Tan is an American author, and she is most well known for her book, The Joy Luck Club, but that is not the only book she has
Mm-mm.
ever written, or the only thing that she does. The woman is a deep, deep well of talent, that's for sure. So the other fiction books that she's written, of course, The Joy Luck Club, I think that was her first novel. And
Mhm. It
then
was.
The Kitchen God's Wife, The Hundred Secret Senses, The Bone Setter's Daughter, Saving Fish from Drowning, and The Valley of Amazement up. And then she has a number of nonfiction projects. And of course, she's part of a band called the Rock Bottom Remainders, which I thought was interesting because it was a band that they formed it as kind of a fun thing to do for a writers guild convention or something like that. And it's her and Barbara Kingsolver and Dave Barry and Stephen King and Tabitha King. And I just think it's really this funny thing that people who just like each other and like to do stuff like that. And then they um, after they did it for this convention, they went ahead and did like a little tour together, which I think would have been a blast to go and see. So, so she's got a number of nonfiction books, and the one that we're going to talk about today, The Backyard Bird Chronicles, is her latest nonfiction book. It's essentially a journal. So this
Mhm.
book that we're talking about, it's nonfiction, and to quote, Amy Tan from her preface of the book, she said it contains excerpts from hundreds of pages gleaned from 9 personal journals filled with sketches and handwritten notes of what she calls naive observations of birds in my backyard. And that's what it is. It really is a love letter to birds,
Mhm.
and specifically the birds that she sees every day. So the book is about the behaviors and observations. Her behavior. So she talks about the behaviors and the observations. And they're sometimes funny. They're sometimes heartbreaking. They're super thought provoking. It's a fine art book. And if you've ever thought about keeping a journal but didn't know how to start, or what to write. This book it really is, I would agree. And you wrote those last couple lines, and
Mhm.
it's a great place to go for inspiration because it started out with just this simple idea is that she saw birds doing stuff and she wondered why that was. And it's amazing what that little question in your head, well, why is that? Or why is that happening? Or I wonder why, that really is the basis for a lot of stuff. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Anne, why don't you take us through some interesting facts about Amy Tan?
Well, interesting facts about Amy Tan talking about The Simpsons. She appeared on The Simpsons as herself. Here's a quote. Oh, please just sit down. I'm embarrassed for both of us. And that was a quote directed at Lisa Simpson after Lisa accurately described the plot of the Joy Luck Club. So it was very funny. Just the one sentence. So yes, she coming back to The Simpsons today. Amy Tan she's so famous. She's been in The Simpsons. I also mentioned the fact that she was in the band The Rock Bottom Remainders. She worked as a children with developmental disability specialist. Her undergraduate degree is in writing, and then her master's is in linguistics. So then she took that linguistics specialty and turned it into children with developmental disabilities specialist. She doesn't drive. Remember Jenny, she mentioned that a couple times when we saw her
yeah,
speak.
during the talk. Yeah.
Well, she doesn't drive because she has chronic Lyme disease and it's caused seizures throughout
No
this
kidding.
time. So that's why she
Okay.
doesn't drive. And she did co-found Lyme Aid for Kids, which helps uninsured children pay for treatment based on if they've contracted Lyme disease. So that's a tick-borne illness that we're seeing more and more as we see climate change and bringing hot weather to places that haven't experienced such hot weather before. Ticks are living longer and in many different places, and the deer tick can easily spread Lyme disease to people. Her Chinese name is Anne Mi, which means blessing from America. And Amy Tan's first love was art. She had an art teacher when she was in school that gave her kind of a disparaging remark on her report card that basically said she had no creativity. And
Fuck off, dude.
that stayed with her for the rest of her life and kind of like dissuaded her from becoming an artist. Of course, she did become an artist as a writer, but yeah, she didn't go into the fine arts because she thought she wasn't talented. But
Well, and
you'll
that's
see
what
from her bird drawings that she's very talented.
she talented. And as a teacher, as somebody that I think it's really important. God, you got to just be so careful with the things that you say to
Mhm.
kids. It's like you don't know when a kid is 13 years old or 10 years old, you don't know what they're going to be. You just don't.
Mhm.
And you can't make a bunch of assumptions about them. You can maybe make them in your head, but certainly, give kids the latitude to figure out who they are and what they
Mhm.
can do before you lay that shit on them. So,
Yeah.
when I'm talking to parents about their kids, I work really hard not to make a lot of assumptions. I basically just, tell them what I see. And that's, you know, you don't know if a kid is creative or not because you don't see the whole kid, you
Right.
only see parts of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a shit statement, and that made
Yeah.
me mad for her
Mhm.
when she was talking about that during the talk. So what we did last week, Ann and I went to Traverse City. We got I'm wearing my National Writers Series hat today. In Traverse City, they have an arm of the National Writers Series. It's a little group in Traverse City, Michigan, and they do book talks with various art. They invite a number of authors to come in and talk about whatever. And so we were lucky enough to grab some tickets to that, and we also got our tickets, and the price of the tickets included a signed copy of the book, Backyard Bird Chronicles. And it was just really nice to listen to Amy Tan talk about stuff because she's a smart lady. So
Yeah, she's
yes.
a very engaging woman. So why I'm enjoying Backyard Bird Chronicles. I have not finished it yet, but what I really like about this book, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I love birds, and it's obvious based on her writings and her drawings that she does too. So that's one of the reasons why I really love this book, is because I also love birds. The joy of it. She wasn't writing a book for publication, but for her own pleasure, and we are lucky that she shared it with us. So as you read through, it's split up into days. They didn't include all of the days. that she did this, but it goes day by day. And you could tell like she wasn't writing this for anybody. You know, her questions, her drawing, her questions to herself, her observations were all for her, and that really it reads in what she's written. It was written as a journal and can be read one entry at a time. If you don't have a lot of time to dedicate to reading right now, this can be enjoyed one journal entry per day. So that's one of the reasons why I really like this is that, you know, I don't have to sit and read 10 pages or anything. I just, you know, and you almost want to just do it one journal entry a day because it really gives you a chance to really absorb her sketches and her drawings. So it's just and kind of think about what she was thinking about. So I really like the way it's written. It's beautiful. So much care was put into the production of this book. In a way, it reminds me of one of Gwen Frostic's poetry books. And you hardly ever see this even in nonfiction. All the sketches and the drawings. I mean, oh, her publishers must adore her and we're just like, whatever you say, Amy, you know, whatever you put on paper, we'll publish, because this had to be quite expensive to publish. And then of course I have another thing. I have this illustration. This was my favorite illustration in the book so far. And she had a great horned owl move into her backyard, which is wonderful because it was eating the rats. California has a rat problem, and it was eating rats. Yeah. So this was the great horned owl, and she drew 6 faces, and one is a resting face, and then a sexy face, and then a happy face, and a parent love face, and a hangry face, and finally attack human face. And the thing is, like, there's ever so subtle differences. I mean, just the tiniest difference between each of the drawings. But I just thought it was so funny. I'm like, if I could get a poster of that, I would hang this up in my house in a hot second, because I just thought, you know, it's so very funny. It's pretty much this almost the same face, but the eyes are slightly different each time. So
there's like
so
like one little
yeah,
light lid, just a difference, like it's round or it's straight or
yeah.
it's
So sexy face and attack human face are remarkably similar. So I loved this illustration, and the illustrations are so amazing. But it just again, this is a demonstration of how much humor Amy Tan has in her writing, and it's just like this was freaking brilliant. So this is
agreed.
why I'm enjoying Backyard Bird Chronicles.
Totally. Um, so to piggyback off of that, these are some of the reasons that I'm enjoying the Backyard Bird Chronicles. The first off, let me just say that what a pleasure it was to hear Amy Tan speak in person. And part of the reason I like, I have 2 copies of this. I have the audible copy. I have an audiobook copy of this, and I have the hard copy of it. And I'm super glad that I have both because you know, there's just the hard copy is so rich with the drawings, and I would agree, and this must have been very expensive to publish because all of the drawings are in color.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and some of them are like really colorful, like that you can see like the picture of the hummingbird, the Annis hummingbird that she has here. The other thing that I love about the audiobook is that we get to hear her reading these journals in her voice. And so everything that she is thinking, those questions, those inflections, those things that we get to hear that in her voice as she's doing it. And I really, really love that. And the woman is funny. She's got this very,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, understated kind of quiet way about her, but she's wickedly funny.
Mm-hmm.
And that poster of the great horned owls is a really great example of the type of humor that she has. It's very subtle, it's very high humor, and I was like, I thought that was really great. I really enjoyed listening to her speak. The preface of this book is, to me, one of the best parts of the book because it gives you some background into her love of art, her love of nature, the fact that she, though a huge nature lover and basically has been getting her hands dirty in nature since she was a kid, like many people, never really noticed birds, or they were not on her nature or her radar in terms of her natural her explorations of the natural world. It's fun to look at the evolution of her drawings as she gets more and more skilled drawing birds, as she learns more about them and how those what she learns is reflected in the drawings. She talks about in the preface how she took drawing classes in order to become better at drawing birds, and I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really wonderful. She talks a lot about the importance of that. I learned a bunch of stuff about birds because a lot of these observations and things that she talks about, she then educates herself about these observations that she's seeing, and she shares those those education pieces with us. Again, it's beautiful. Again, I'm really happy that I have both the audiobook and the hard copy. It's a really good book to unwind with because it's weird. There's no pressure. Like you're not trying to follow some, story where you're like, "Oh, I can't put this book down." And then there are certain books that you read that you get stressed out reading them because the stakes are so high while you're reading them. Where I never really feel like that with this book. Yes, there are sad things that happen because birds die, they get sick, things happen, but at the same time, you're kind of following in her nature journey. So it feels like I've enjoyed kind of reading it at night because that's, I can look at everything, I can take my time, I can look at all the drawings with a lot of detail, and it's a great way to do that before bedtime. I love her anthropomorphisms. I can never say this word.
Anthropomorphisms.
Thank you, anthropomorphisms. Whew, there, I'm like, I can never say that word. Which is basically when you take human ideas and emotions and you put them onto animals. Like I do that with all the time with my cats. When my cats are meowing at me, I'm like, oh, somebody's mad or somebody's hungry. I don't know if that's why they're meowing at me, but I'm automatically, doing that because that's what humans do. We anthropomorphize everything. So she does that all throughout the book, and that's especially cool in her drawings. And there's a lot of really funny stuff, like when she's talking about she's got the little blue jays complaining about this and that, and I think those are hilarious. I really like those. I also like how in this book she kind of gives us all permission to be low-key birders. Some people when they bird, they are all about getting to the bird, seeing the bird, noting that they saw this bird when they saw it, and she's not like that. That's one of the things I like because I'm not that kind of birder. I'm more of a, hey, that bird's cool. Look at that. And then kind of make some mental notes to myself and then I move on. I'm not one to, I don't have a life list going. I'm not going to murder somebody to go see a bird. I'm not going to, I'm tempted to, I've always thought, I could drive 500 miles to see that, that exotic bird that's in the wrong place, but I don't go do that either because I'm like, I've driven many miles to see birds. Now, don't get me wrong, but
yeah, exactly. I've driven thousands of miles to see birds, but not necessarily because it was special.
No, because I just wanted to go to that place and see those birds.
Because I wanted to go to that place, and then there was all these awesome birds there.
Indeed. So that's why I'm enjoying this book. It may not be your cup of tea, but it's a great way to learn things about stuff. And one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about is the fact that she started because she's 72 now, and she started birding, really started taking an interest in birds when she was 64. So she was well into her 60s when she finally decided to start doing this thing, which I think is really cool. And it's a testament to the fact that we're never really done, as far as our interests, as far as the things that we take pleasure in. Those things do change, and I think it's important to remember that. So, and you want to take us through these illustrations?
Well, I just wanted to show like some of her, you'll notice that a couple of these, there's 3 of these here that are actually illustrations from her journal. And then as she took more art classes about drawing birds and how she evolved. So you can see like the quick sketches that she did are quite remarkable. You really, what you're looking at, but then when she actually took the time, you can see how detailed and beautiful these are of her dark-eyed junco, I believe that one is, and then the Anna's hummingbird, and I think I can't remember what the other one is, but yes,
you can see the band on it. I can't think of the name of it, but I know she talks about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you can just see the detail that she put into this, and like her art teacher was very mistaken. And it's funny because I have a bird feeder that I keep at work, and it's it's in the window of our quiet room so that people that come and sit in the quiet room, they can watch the birds. And the other day I was standing watching a bird. I was watching a house finch, and it was a female house finch. And I was watching her because I put safflower in there because squirrels and sparrows don't like safflower. And I was watching her like almost twirl a seed in her mouth as she made small cracks all the way through it, and then was able to spit out the shell and keep the seed without losing the seed. And then I was watching how her back feathers overlaid each other at the wings, and I was like, oh, look at me. I made me tanning the fuck out of this bird. And I was like, that's
right. Amy Tan is a verb. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was like, I've seen thousands of house finches. They're a pretty bird. The males have this kind of purpley redness to them. The females almost look like a regular sparrow, but they're a little more detailed in their browns and tans. And I was like, I'd never really looked at how their wings, because I was like, oh, I need to put all of my bird feeders at home are further out because they're near trees. And I want the birds to be able to like hang out in the trees and then go back and forth. I'm like, I need to get a bird feeder right at the window so I could, because she has a one right at her bathroom window. And I was like, I need to do that too. Oh, you know what? Another thing I did, how she was talking about having more water stations at her. I had a big terracotta plant dish. And so I cleaned that out and I set that up too with rocks in it. So it's only about an inch deep so that insects can land on the rocks and drink out of the water. And then also birds can splash around it. So now I have two water features in my yard. Thank you, Amy.
And that was that's well done. Well done. That was one of the things I thought was interesting about both the book and the talk, is that I didn't really think about that. I didn't realize, she talked about how important it is, if you're going to have water sources for birds, to, again, A, have the rocks in there, and B, to keep your water levels low, because it takes literally nothing to drown a baby bird.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really, really important. And that's not something that I knew about keeping a water source. So well done.
Yeah,
And
because I have this cool bird bath that's got like a nice the bottom of it is rough textured, and I clean it every day. But I was like, oh, I never thought about putting having another one in a different part of the yard for other not just birds to drink out of, but other insects. Because I have a lot of bees and stuff that visit my yard because I have a lot of pollinating plants. But I was like, yeah, birds.
Yay birds! Yay birds!
Yay birds. So
awesome.
Amy Tan did talk about how she was gonna they were gonna introduce a line of stationery with her bird drawings on them. I can't wait till those come out. I'm gonna buy so many of those. Everybody's gonna get Amy Tan cards. You're gonna get Amy Tan cards for me with birds on them.
Nice. I love that. That's a beautiful idea. All right, so let's talk about oops, I'm gonna go here. Let's talk about other cool bird stuff, because one of the things that's that if in looking through this book, this might make you more interested in birds. And there's a lot of good strategies that she talks about. One of them is, decide you want to be a birder. So what we did is we kind of compiled a list of bird watching 101. And there's really I mean, you can go to many different websites, and you can get all this information about becoming a bird watcher. And but you don't, this is one of those things it's easy to do,
Yeah.
So number one,
watching.
yeah, seriously, that's number one. Decide what kind of birder you want to be, or don't be a bird watcher. And then just decide if you want to start watching birds. So if you're serious though about making this more of a pursuit, start by looking at, this is a great website. It's just called How to Start Birding, and it's done through Audubon. So there's a couple different really good, I would say, birding agencies. One of them is the Audubon Society. They are very well known as their birders, and the other is the Cornell Labs. They're another big birding institution. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the apps in just a minute. But the first one is just, go to this website and How to Start Birding. It's done through Audubon's website. Find some birds and then look at them. As far as getting birds to your backyard, because Amy Tan's, she's not kidding. This journal really is just about the birds that are in her backyard. So if you want birds to come to your backyard, obviously you can put feeders out, but she talks about the fact that you don't even really need feeders. If you can just put out water sources, you are very likely to get birds, because birds, like anything, need water. And that's true. I had a couple of bird baths when I was living in Wisconsin, and that was the big draw. We would get birds, all kinds of shapes and sizes of birds that would, spend time in that water source for sure. If you don't have birds around you, then go find places that have birds. And there's lots of different places, parks, nature centers, woodsy places. Get some feeders. You might want to do your homework on what kind of feeders you should get ahead of time before you drop money on that. And you can drop a lot of money on feeders. Like my cousin Joe and his wife Della, I mean, I don't know that they ever had feeders. They would just dump seed on the ground or on their stumps, and they still got plenty of birds and deer and pretty much every other critter that likes bird seed. So look at the birds, as far as what you want to do, Yeah, it's up to you. Like, I like to just kind of look at them, try to identify them, watch what they do, ask yourself questions about what they do, try to figure out why they're doing what they do, and maybe journal about a bird you saw and what you noticed. Make sure you're being safe when you're watching your birds, especially if you're driving. It's easy to get distracted by birds when you're driving,
Mhm.
you know.
Is that an owl?
So
Oh, hawk. Oh, eagle.
yes.
Oh, indigo buzzard.
Yeah, so be careful, watch out for that. Make somebody else drive while you watch birds, okay?
Mhm.
So make sure you're not trespassing because, Amy Tan talks about the fact that she tries, if she's going to go look at birds, that she's really good about asking her neighbors if she can trespass on their. So, don't go trespassing because you don't know what people are going to do. Maybe get
Mhm.
yourself some binoculars. Watch out for the binoculars because you're gonna think you're buying good binoculars, but in reality, you're buying shitty binoculars. Sorry, unless you're paying like $1,000 plus for binoculars, you're probably getting low end binoculars. But you know, I have low end binoculars and they serve me very well. So I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I was like, sometimes those high-end binoculars are really big and heavy, and I just need something where I can, do a quick. I have a tiny pair that I take with me when Duncan and I go paddle boarding, and it's like the kind. I'm like, I didn't want to spend too much because if these end up at the bottom of a pond, I don't want to feel bad about losing it. But at the same time, I might want to look and see, hey, what am I looking at? If it can give me an idea of what I'm looking at, that's about as good as it needs to be.
Correct. Yeah. Um, and again, it's so funny because in the preface, Amy Tan talks about when she starts sketching the bird, she goes through this gigantic list of money she spends on supplies to observe and journal her birds. And it's so funny because, how many people have taken up something and then they're just like, well, the more money I spend on this, the better I'm going to do. So let's go.
Yeah, she talks about all the
And
art supplies she bought. She's like, "Well, I started out with pencil, and then I started out with these type of pencils, and then I got these type of pencils, and then I got these watercolor pencils, and then I got these other types of pencils, and then I got this big shelving unit to hold all my pencils." It's
well, and
awesome.
you can do that as a bird. You can be like, well, I'm going to get these binoculars. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to get these. And I'm going to get this hat so that when I sit outside, and then I'm going to go get one of those little stools where
Mhm.
that folds so I can sit on that while I'm sketching or doing what you can literally just go on and on and on. Ann and I went to the Bosque del Apache in San Antonio, New Mexico for the first time like 15 years ago. And we just went to kind of hang out and see what this was all about. And there were so many bird people there. And they had the giant ass monocles with the stand and the giant cameras with their 10-foot long lens. And, Anna and I are both with our tiny binoculars. We're just like, we have tiny binoculars.
And they would stake out a spot and sit there for 12 hours. And Jenny and I are going on a hike. We're like, "Hey, there's a bird,"
Totally.
and we keep going. "Hey, there's an elk." Keep going. "Oh, there's another bird." Sometimes we'd stop and eat a sandwich. So we were the opposite of all the other birders looked at us like, what is wrong with them? Are they hyperactive
Yeah.
children? It's like kind of.
Kind of a little bit because, but it was such a neat place. You had to go
Yeah,
exploring. But no, those guys were serious about what they were doing. And
serious.
many of those guys were professional photographers. So,
Hmm.
that's what you do. You sit there until you get the shot and the lights right and the birds are right
Hmm.
and all that. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, you can get some other gear, but careful. It's again, it just kind of depends on what kind of bird watcher you want. If you want everybody to know that you're a bird watcher, you're going to get all the stuff. And if you don't really care, you're going to be like, I'm just going to get the stuff that makes me happy.
Hmm.
And number 11 on my list of bird watching 101 is that if people give you a hard time about your love of birding, please tell them to fuck off. Okay,
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. You know why they're making fun of you? Because they don't know how awesome you are.
exactly.
Hmm.
So,
Uh-huh.
all right. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about why birding is cool and important. Number one, birds are amazing, and we have forgotten that because we see them every day and take their ability to fly for granted. Um, and it's interesting because it really is one of those things that you start to figure out as you get older, except for Tracy Jordan. Tracy Jordan on 30 Rock understands how important and awesome birds are. So we have Tracy Jordan's character who is looking at a pigeon who's eating somebody's french fries. And so his quote, "Stop eating people's old french fries, pigeon. Have some self-respect. Don't you know you can fly?" Which is,
That's one of my favorite quotes in that.
totally. And he nails it though. You're like, yeah, birds are incredible. They can do this incredible thing that we have to. You think about what it takes for humans to fly, just the materials and the money and the time and the understanding of physics to fly, where all a bird has to do literally is just practice. because, and be a bird, and just bird. That's all you got to
I just
do,
bird.
which is outstanding. Birding is cool and important because it's a way for us to easily connect with nature uh, wherever we are in the world, because there's birds everywhere,
Mhm.
literally everywhere. No matter where you live, whether you live in the middle of nowhere in the desert, there's going to be a bird somewhere that's going to fly by, or whether you live in New York City, there's going to be birds. Um, watching birds and making observations and thinking about what we see with birds and drawing conclusions helps us to develop the highest levels of thinking. The scientific method's not brain surgery, you guys. The scientific method is not a thing; it's a process, and that process starts with observing the natural world around us and going, "Oh, I wonder why that's happening." That literally is the basis for everything we know about science and technology starts with that question. I wonder if I could do this, or I wonder if I do this, or this thing happens. What happens if I do this? And bird watching is a way to connect that. And Amy Tan talks about that her first interest in birds was that she started to see these birds and the things that they were doing, and she wondered why they were doing that.
Mhm.
And so this is a really graspable way to do it. Birds are cool anyway. And then when you start to take this cool thing to look at and then start observing its behaviors, then you're like, okay. And they're not as elusive as other types of wildlife. I'm sorry, Ann, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying if you have kids in your life and you want them to start, developing some higher level thinking skills, having them observe birds or just looking at birds is a way to do that. It's something you can do as together. It's can be really interesting. They may not think it's very cool at first, but my first birding experiences were with my grandma Avis Brothers at the bird feeder outside of her kitchen window, and that's where I started asking questions about birds. So, and that was what I was 7, 8. And, I've been a fan of birds ever since. And then that translated into a big fan of nature and a big
Sure.
fan of being outside and, a fan of science. So it translated to so many things. And it's a great way to, I think, if you have children in your life and you want to have them start developing some observation skills and higher level thinking, start looking at birds.
And that brings me to point number 4 of why birding is cool and important is that it helps us look up and around and not down at our phones. We're losing the ability of as a species to just notice anything except what's in front of us. We have become so reliant on technology to tell us everything that we've just lost the simple patience to look up, look at something, make observations about it, and that we've lost the ability to let the external world around us stimulate our mind and our thinking, and we simply rely on that technology in front of us to do that for us rather than us doing it. And I think that's going to be, in the long run, that's not going to really help. So
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
yeah, birding, bringing us closer to those things. Okay, now, Anne, I kind of did this list on my own, but by all means,
Mhm.
add to it. I didn't add a number 9 because I didn't get around to it. But tell me about some of well, let me tell you a little bit about some of my favorite birding stuff, and then I'm going to have you add into it as well.
Mhm.
So for me, one of my favorite things is the bird perch on Facebook. It's a local, I think it's a local woman right here in Kalamazoo, and she's got a nature cam on her bird feeders, and it's so fun and she's got cameras on bird feeders, and she also has cameras on her little water source in her backyard. She gets some great birds in there, everything from your basic songbirds to crows to mourning dove. She has a couple of pileated woodpeckers that come. I think she has 2 sets that come and visit all the time. So the other one is Jocelyn Anderson Photography, also on Facebook. She's the lady that has the Hand of Snacks videos, which are my favorite because she just has this handful of birds and she holds it out and then she records birds that just come to her hand and eat. It's amazing. My friend Lori Bolendock, who I'm friends with on Facebook, she does incredible nature photography, and she has little sets of owls that she kind of tracks every year and photographs them. So I really love her photographs. The Bosque del Apache National Wildlife Refuge. They are one of the places where you have a huge bird migrations in the fall, specifically November around Thanksgiving. They have a massive sandhill train migration that goes through there. Also, they have a massive snow geese migration that also
Mhm.
goes through there. But then they also have just a bunch of other really great birds and wildlife and roadrunners and
Quail.
quail and grouse and just this. it's right on the Rio Grande in central New Mexico, and it's toit. There's 2 apps that I'm particularly fond of for birding. So if you're not sure what kind of bird you're looking at, or if you hear a bird sound, I would say the Merlin Bird ID, this is run through Cornell Labs, is amazing. Like, and it's amazing. It would, like I said, there's so many cool things on this app. And one of the things that you can do is you can take a picture of the bird and it will help you identify it, or you can press the little record button and it will listen to the bird sound and tell you what bird it is. It's neat. And they, so like it has, you can put your location in and then it will tell you the birds that you can expect to see in your area and their distribution throughout each month of the year, whether it's big, you have like a little bar graph that shows you where they're most like, if they're in your area, what month of the year they're most likely to be there, they're most prevalent, stuff like that. Oh, I get so excited about those apps. Sorry. As far as books, sort of the Bible of bird booking is the Sibley Guide to Birds. David Sibley is a very renowned bird writer. He's like the godfather of birding in the United States of America. And he actually wrote the foreword on Amy Tan's Backyard Bird Chronicles. So good job, David. And as far as fun events to visit, Anne and I have been to the Buzzard Day Festival each year in Hinckley, Ohio. So, Anne, other favorite birding stuff?
One of the my favorite places to go bird is Kensington Metro Park, which is kind of in between Brighton and I can't remember the other name of the town. It's Milford. That's it.
I'm going to put
Milford.
that on our watching spots. Yeah, excellent.
Excellent. So they have a big blue heron rookery where blue herons come every year to nest, and it's this little island in the middle of Birdwing Lake, and they have these old oak trees, and they're full of nests for blue herons. And in the spring, that place is crazy with blue herons. If you'd like to go there in the winter, a lot of the songbirds have been habituated to eat seed out of your hands. So we'll go there in the winter and feed all kinds. We'll take gourmet, seed and nuts with, dried fruit
Suet
in it.
balls.
Exactly. Suet balls. Exactly. So that's a great place to go. Another really great place to go watch birds is the Erie Metro Park. Lake Erie Metro Park, which is over on on Lake Erie, of course, but it's right next to it's Lake Erie, and then it's right across from Canada. So it's a great place for migratory birds, especially hawks and raptors, that they migrate across it because it's one of the shortest spans over the Great Lake in Huron, Erie area. So a lot of birds will go out of the way and cross at that point. So in the spring and fall, you get tons of birders. It's kind of like when we go to the Bosque in the fall, tons of birders that just literally will stand there all day and count raptors. So that's another great place to go and watch birds. So if you get a chance, any of the metro parks here in this side of the state, a lot of them are connected somehow to the Huron River. So there's lots of good water birds, eagles, that sort of thing. It's we have I want to say 7 or 8 different ones, but Lake Erie Metro Park and Kensington Metro Park are 2 of my favorites to go see birds.
Sweet. Nice. What we have here is we also have another to add to Anne's list of favorite bird watching spots. Again, my favorite of all of the birding spots in America, my favorite is the Bosque del Apache in San Antonio, New Mexico. That place, it's so cool. If you want to do something a little different for Thanksgiving, go to the Bosque, because it really is. I mean, I don't know how many, we've spent probably 2 or 3 or 4 different Thanksgivings there. And that, because November is the best time to see those migratory birds. Like I said, the big sandhill migration and the snow geese migration is in November. And what's cool about the Bosque is that it's a completely different park in the summertime. It is equally as beautiful and equally as just species rich, but it's completely different. It's hot, it's dry. You see roadrunners running around. It's a completely, there's it has that sort of that desert essence going for it. It's really cool. My other favorite spot is my own backyard feeders. I kind of miss one of the things when Joe and I were living in Wisconsin. We had a great spot for birds, and we saw all kinds of great birds in that little spot. Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge, which it's not that far from the Lake Erie one that you were talking about, is it?
It's not. It's also on Lake Erie. It's
Right.
probably about, it's not even an hour drive. It's probably,
Okay.
you know, they're both that, the one I was talking about, Erie National or Erie Metro Park, is kind of like just before the bend happens. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah. Yes, it does. So when you're making that turn from Toledo, that
Yeah,
yeah, I
that
got you.
bend area. So it's just before that happens. But yeah, it's oh gosh, I actually Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge in the spring I think is one of the most amazing places to go. And it's a very, if you live not too far from where I live, you know, in Southeast Michigan, you can get there in about 50 minutes. It's a great place, and
And it
it doesn't matter the season. You're going to see amazing birds.
totally. We saw a lot of eagles when we were there for the
Hmm.
eclipse in April, which was amazing.
Hmm.
Other places, I love to be in Colorado, in May and June, a little bit either that or some northern tier states because you see a lot of American pelicans. I know the first time, and I did not realize that I was living in Colorado. I think it was in like '99, in the summer of '99. I'm driving by Sloan's Lake. I'm like, I see these big white birds in Sloan's Lake, which is right downtown Denver. And of course, you see white birds. You're from Michigan. You think, oh, they're swans. And then as I'm driving by, I'm like, "Those are fucking pelicans!" I lost my shit because I was so excited. I did not realize that, American pelicans, they migrate to Canada. I can't think of which, part of Canada. I wanna say the Winnipeg area. North of there, there's the Lake Winnipeg in that area.
Hmm.
But there's a huge migration of American pelicans that go right through, the Midwest and Western United States on their way north, and so, all the waterways in Colorado are one of their favorites, and it's really cool because you catch them, you'll see them, they're huge, they're giant birds, and you'll see them all the time riding thermals, and so you'll see, like, 100 American pelicans in these giant thermals, and you'll lose your mind. It's so awesome. So that's one. Kearney, Nebraska is another really great sandhill migration spot. The best spot to see them migrating is in the spring. So if you want to see them migrating in the fall, go to Bosque de la Apache. If you want to see an even larger migration of sandhill cranes, go to central Nebraska. Kearney is sort of the heart of that loop, in Nebraska. Go see that again. Amazing. Plovers. If you want to see some plovers, go to Whitefish Point in Michigan. Um, Loons, pretty much anywhere. The northern tier states is where you want to see loons. There's great loon watching at Isle Royale National Park, and here in the Kalamazoo area, we have the Kellogg Bird Sanctuary in Augusta, Michigan. So, yay! And that was one of the first time things that I remember about bird watching is when Grandma Brothers took us to the bird sanctuary when we
Hmm.
were kids.
Yeah, we also
So,
got to go there on a field trip. I think when we were in fifth grade, so
yep,
that was also very exciting. I
yeah,
saw
because
bluebirds.
you got bluebirds and you got to have pop and hostess cakes because it was a field trip.
Exactly, exactly. And you
Yeah.
got to go to the gift shop. Big fan of gift shops.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if,
Mhm.
just so you know, if you are a place with a gift shop, the brother sisters are gonna drop some coin in your gift shop, okay?
Exactly. We love it. It's
Serious
like,
coin, yeah.
what was it? What's the quote from A Good Place? Is there a gift shop? "Ah, this is hell. Of course, there's a gift shop."
Ah, I'm a sucker for T-shirts, hats, socks, and whatever else I can bu buy at a gift shop. Yeah.
Me too. Me
Mhm,
too. Mhm.
mhm. I get that. So, ooh, I would say, and we birded the hell out of this today.
Of
So,
course we
yeah,
did. Of course we
we
did. You
did.
just talked about birds and like we could go another hour probably.
I probably could. So,
Mhm.
well done, audience. You did a great job. You have spent another hour or nearly an hour learning something, learning things about stuff from the Brother Sisters. And today you learned about Amy Tan's new book, The Backyard Bird Chronicles. You also learned some things about maybe becoming a birder yourself.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe now it's on your radar. The, the
Mhm.
thing about uh, the thing about becoming a birder is that it happens all of a sudden. One minute you're cool, you're doing cool stuff, you're partying till 2 in the morning and you're going to raves and you're doing drugs, and then all of a sudden you're looking at birds. You're like, what the
Exactly.
fuck
You're up
happened?
early so you can look
Yep,
at birds. Like, "Oh, I woke up this morning to the sound of robins." I was like, "Ugh,
that's right.
nerd." Yep.
Nerd. Yep, and it's the weirdest thing. It just
Mhm.
happens, and then you're like, you think it's gonna be bad, and then you're like, "Oh, I actually
Huh.
really love this," and then it makes you happier. What? All those drugs you did
Exactly.
when
It's
you were
like,
young didn't make you happy, but birds will end up making you happy. It's weird.
it's weird. So weird.
It
Mm.
is. So, yeah, so anyway, thank you for spending the hour with us. Remember, we wanna hear from you. Please answer our questions, answer our poll questions, give us your questions, concerns, comments, and confessions. That's right. We want to hear from you, so please do that. And remember, you can support the Brothers Sisters for free. It won't cost you a dime. Just like us, follow us, subscribe to us, leave a review. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And again, you guys, please follow us, like us, subscribe us. Please tell your people to follow us, like us, subscribe us. You don't have to donate money. You don't have to give us money. Just give us your follow. Just give us your like. Give us your support. Give us your subscribe. We would really appreciate that.
Please,
for real. Yes. Please join us next week. You guys, we are going to be revisiting the topic of Uper lights. And because, it's that time of year, you're going to be spending some time on the lakes, especially, if you're on Lake Superior, then you too can look for some Uper lights. So we're going to be, we actually covered this topic, and this is going to knock your socks off. We covered this topic 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
Oh gosh. Well, we need to talk about this because Jenny, we have to plan our trip to go and look for Uper lights.
Yes, so that's happening this summer. Ann and I are going to go Uper light hunting. If you don't know what we're talking about, join us next week because you will know what a Uper light is. So until then, wait, I got to turn on our super special show music. Until then, wait. There it is. Until then, I am Janice. With me is my sister
and brothers.
That's right. And
I was going to say, Jenny, we're losing you a little bit. And we want you to get out there and do something smart. Do something fun.
How about now?
Dumb. Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, good. Do something smart, something dumb, something fun. That's right, you guys. We are out of here. Bye.